Hey y'all, welcome to part 1 of a brand new series titled Vectric version 12 Plus for the absolute beginner. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate creating a new file and some of the basic navigation and selection within the Vectric software. Now for this demonstration, I'm using VCarve Pro version 12.009, but everything I'm about to demonstrate works identically in Cut2D, Desktop and Pro, VCarve, Desktop and Pro, and Aspire. When you first start the Vectric software, this is the view you're going to have. Over here on the left, we have a toolbox, and we have a limited toolbar up above. Cut2D Desktop and VCarve Desktop will not have the gadget menu up here in the toolbar. The desktop versions of these software packages do not include gadget support. The most common tool you're going to use are these three right here. The next most common will be this section down here. These three are the startup tasks. Here we have three basic choices. We can create a new file, we can open a new file from a template, or we can open an existing file. And we'll get into these two choices in later videos. Today we're going to focus on creating a new file. Further down the line here, we have a video tutorial section. The first selection is open the video tutorial browser. This can be reached here, or if you're already within the design space within a file, you can come up to the help menu, and your third selection down here is the video tutorial browser. This is the easy way to access the video tutorials that have been created by Vectric. And they are excellent tutorials. I would highly encourage you to watch them. Down below are further online resources. Here we have a link to access your V&Company account. Here you can visit the Vectric main website. Here you can visit Vectric's support website, where they have various training and support resources. And probably the most underutilized support option is a link to the Vectric support forum. The support forum is excellent. The membership of the support forum is made up of Vectric software users like you and me, who get together and share topics, tips, tricks, ask questions, give answers, and discuss all things Vectric. You will find a wealth of information there, as well as a huge number of people who are more than willing to help should you have a question or have a problem. I would highly encourage you to go over and visit the Vectric forum, become a member, and take advantage of this excellent resource. Further on down, we have links to Vectric's social media. Vectric on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube. If you go to Vectric's YouTube channel, you will find a multitude of videos geared toward the beginner and the more advanced users. It is a terrific resource and a great community of people, and I would highly encourage you to subscribe to their channel and visit often. And finally, down here below, we have a link to the Design and Make website. Design and Make is a subsidiary of Vectric Limited, and they are an excellent source of 3D models that can be imported into your clip art library and be imported directly into VCarve and Aspire. So, as I said earlier, probably the most common task you're going to do when you're in this screen is come up here and create a new file. So we'll click on this link, and the first thing that happens when you create a new file is you're going to be put into the job setup screen. In this screen, we're going to tell the program what kind of job we're going to do, how big our material is, and we're going to set our datum position and Z0 position, as well as a couple of other things. This is the basic information the software needs in order to allow you to start designing your file. We'll start up here at the top and work our way down the form. First, we need to tell the software what type of job this is. Is this a single-sided job, meaning we're only going to be cutting this top surface here? Is this a double-sided job, meaning we're going to carve something on the top surface and on the bottom surface? Or is this a rotary job? Is this a job that's going to be carved on a rotary axis? We'll put that radio knob in the correct area. Make sure that that is selected, then move down. Down here is the job size. This represents the size of your actual piece of work material, not necessarily the size of the design you're going to put on that piece of material. I will use the word material a lot, and when I say material, I mean a piece of wood, a piece of plywood, maybe a piece of foam, a piece of plastic, acrylic, a piece of aluminum. Whatever work material you're working with, that's what I mean by the material. What we'll need to put out here is the actual physical size of this piece of work material. In my case, a piece 16 inches wide in X, 11 1/4 inches high in Y, and 3/4 of an inch thick. This is all I need to get started. But let me give you a tip here. I would highly encourage you to invest in a pair of calipers, be they digital calipers or dial calipers. That way you can accurately measure the thickness of your material. This will become very important when it comes time to cut our design out of this piece of material. If we enter a measurement that's too thin, we may not be able to cut all the way through the material. If we enter a measurement that's too thick, we may cut too deep and scar up our spoil board unnecessarily. So it's a good idea to go ahead and invest in a good set of calipers now so that you can take accurate thickness measurements and enter them here when you go to create a new design. The units of measure I work in is inches. Now we'll get into the Z0 position. I will expand on this more in future videos, but generally speaking, the rule of thumb to think of is if you're going to be carving down into the surface of the material, but not all the way through it, you're better served to set your Z0 position at the material surface. Most home hobby CNC operators set their Z0 position to the material surface all the time. Not all, but most do. There are occasions where setting your Z0 position to the machine bed is a better option, but we'll get into that in later videos. I am going to keep my Z0 position at the material surface. The XY datum position. This is the position that your Vectric software, as well as your CNC controller on the machine itself, will recognize as 0 in X from side to side and 0 in Y from front to rear. All CNC controllers need a 0 position in order to know where to move the bit on your material. You have 5 basic choices here. You can, like me, set yours to start 0 in the center, or you can select one of the 4 corners. The most common 2 XY datum positions are in the material center or the bottom left corner. You will see these 2 used a lot. On my machine, I set my XY datum position to the bottom left corner. However, when I'm just starting to draw a design, I will set the XY datum position to the center, because it's easier for me to use this 0 point as a reference if I need to put something in a specific location out here. Before I save G-code, I will come back and change this to the bottom left corner, recalculate any toolpaths I have created, then save G-code. So for this demonstration, my XY datum is going to be in the center. Next is the modeling resolution. I'm going to get into this further in later videos. But for designs that do not have a 3D model in them, standard is the best way to go. This only comes into play, and this is a drop-down menu, when we have a 3D model as part of our design. If you don't have a 3D model, if you're just V-carving a sign, for instance, you do not need to adjust your modeling resolution. It has no effect on 2D vectors. The material settings, this is used for the 3D view out here in the design space. And we'll get into that further in later videos. Again, if you're using 2D vectors, you probably will not use the 3D view. Once I have all of this information filled out, I can click OK. The software will save those settings for this particular job and open up our toolbox out here. Right now, take a look up here at the top of the screen in the title bar. We can see that the title of this file says New, and there is an asterisk placed in front of it. This asterisk is a visual cue. It's a visual reminder that this file has not been saved. You need to remember to save your file. Not just your G-code files or your toolpath files, but this actual file here as well. So what I'll do is I'll come up to the File menu and I'll go to Save As. I'll navigate to the folder I want to save this file in, and I will name it Demo 3. And I'll save this file. Now, when I did that, the title became Demo 3, and that asterisk is gone. That means this file has been saved, and nothing has been changed in this file since it was saved. The minute I add or do anything out here, that asterisk will come back, letting me know that it's been modified since the last time I saved that file. Let's start up here at the top of the toolbox, and we'll work our way down. Starting up here in the toolbox, we're going to look at these first 4 icons within the File Operations section. Everything here has to do with files. It may have something to do with the design out here, but it's working with files as a whole. Here is where we'll find the job setup. If I need to come back and make a change, for instance, we'll go back into job setup. I want to change my XY datum position to the bottom left corner. I can do so here. Click OK. And now my XY datum position is down at this bottom left corner. This is where my X and Y0 are located, right here. In the next section, I can create vectors. I can draw a circle, an oval, a rectangle, a polygon, a star. I can draw text, I can draw a polyline, I can draw an arc. Down here is transform objects. Here's where I can move things, or I can resize things, or I can rotate things, or mirror them. Down below is edit objects. This is where I can weld selected vectors together, or I can trim things, trim one vector to another, or I can join vectors. Lots of different editing tools down here, and I will get into all of these in future videos. Here is further alignment down here. I can align something to the middle of my material, or I can align one object to another. Down here we have offset and layout. I can offset a vector. I can create a linear array copy of a shape, either side to side or up and down or both. I can array copies in a circle. I can copy along a vector. I can do various things here with offset and layout of vectors within the workplace. Now here in VCarve, under modeling tools, my choices are very limited. VCarve Desktop and VCarve Pro is not 3D modeling software. VCarve Pro gives you limited ability to edit or modify a 3D model, be that clip art that's provided with the software, or a 3D model that's imported into the software. Your options for modifying or editing that 3D model are very limited. That is basic navigation of the toolbox over here to the left. In future videos, we'll get into each of these tabs over here, and we'll delve further into each of these tools and get over into the tool pathing side of the software. I've opened up this file to show you basic navigation and basic selection of vectors and objects. All of these shapes out here are vector objects. They were drawn with the Create Vectors tools. When we want to work with a specific object, we do it by selecting that object. We'll start with this pentagon right here. If I want to select an object, all I need to do is put my cursor over it and left click one time. And you'll see that that vector has gone from a black continuous line like this one to this magenta dashed line representation. This is letting me know that this pentagon is selected. If I go over here to transform objects and I want to get in and change the size, it will affect this pentagon only. It won't affect anything else here on the screen. The way I am zooming my view right now is I'm using the scroll wheel on my 3-button mouse. Push my scroll wheel forward to zoom in, pull it back to zoom out. Now, I'll delve into zooming deeper a little bit later, but do know that it is proportional. What I mean by that is, it's going to zoom in wherever I place my cursor. So if I put my cursor over here inside this rectangle and push my scroll wheel forward, it zooms in on that rectangle. If I pull back, it zooms out. If I come down to this star, it zooms in on that star. Again, we'll get further into this later on. If I want to deselect something, I just simply click off. And when I say click off, what I mean is I'll move my cursor away from any other vectors and just left click the mouse button. To select more than one vector, I'll click on the first vector I want to select. Then I'll hold down the Shift key. And I'll click on the second vector I want to select. Still holding down Shift, I'll click on another vector. And another. Now I've just released the Shift key. If I decide I have made a mistake and I didn't mean to select this star and I want to deselect it, I can just press and hold Shift and click that star, then release the Shift key. And I've deselected it without deselecting the other vectors. I can then move on and select further or deselect further. All of that with the Shift key held down. Click off to deselect all of those. Alternately, I can use a selection box. And what I mean by that is, I'll come up over here away from my workpiece, and I'm going to press and hold my left mouse button and drag it on a diagonal down to the left. And you see that blue box appear. That is a selection box. When I let go on my left mouse button, the box disappears. That selection box doesn't draw anything. It's used to select vectors and objects. But do know that the direction that you draw that box with does matter. I'll zoom in on this star right here. If I draw the box starting up here and go from left to right and draw that box around the star so that the star is fully within that box, then release the left mouse button, it selects that star. If I look at this rectangle within this circle and I start my selection box up here and draw it to where that rectangle is fully surrounded by my selection box, but the circle isn't, it will select the rectangle. Drawing from left to right, the selection box has to surround the vector completely for it to be selected. This comes in handy when you have a situation where you have a bunch of vectors close together, but you only want to select one in particular. If I draw that selection box from right to left, that selection box only has to touch a vector for it to be selected. It doesn't need to surround the vector all the way. This comes in handy when you have a lot of vectors to select and you can quickly select a bunch of them all at once. Again, from right to left, the box only has to touch the vector for it to be selected. From left to right, it has to fully surround the vector to be selected. And yes, you can draw from bottom to top, or you can draw from top to bottom. That doesn't matter. So, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. In future videos, we'll get into moving, transforming, and we'll spend a little bit more time in zooming in on our work areas. So, I hope you got something out of this first Vectric version 12 Plus for Absolute Beginners video. And if you did, I do hope you'll give me a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to put them down in the comment section. But also, today at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, I'll be hosting a live Q&A session where you can ask me any question you'd like about anything I presented in this video or any of my other videos. Again, that's today at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on my YouTube channel. And I've put a link to that live Q&A session down in the description box of this video. Now, before we wrap this up, I would like to give a special shout out and say a special thank you to my channel members. Thank you for your continued support, channel members. If you would like more information on how to become a channel member, you click that little join button down here next to the subscribe button. A panel will pop up and a video will play that'll tell you all about channel membership. So, I hope to see you later on this afternoon for the live Q&A session. And as always, whether you subscribe to my channel or not, whether you become a channel member or not, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to watch, and y'all take care.